Don't you dare take another step into this house. Her voice was sharp, shrieking. It pierced the quiet Sunday morning like a siren. I froze. I had just stepped onto the front porch of the house I had lived in for 31 years. My knees ached from the short climb. I was holding a pie I had baked for my grandson, apple cinnamon, his favourite. My hands trembled slightly, but not from the pie's warmth, from the tension in the air. Standing in front of me, in yoga pants and an oversized hoodie, was my daughter-in-law, Maya. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, her eyes wild, and her phone raised in the air like a weapon. "I mean it, Margaret," she said louder now. "Go away, or I swear I'll call the police." Before I dive in, feel free to let me know where you're watching from. And if you enjoy the story, a like and subscribe would mean a lot. I blinked. For a second I thought she was joking. But the look in her eyes, no, she wasn't joking. Inside I heard the faint sound of cartoons. My grandson was watching TV. My son Daniel was nowhere to be seen. I lowered the pie. "Maya," I said calmly, "I just came to drop this off for—" "I don't care," she snapped. "You don't live here. This is our home now. You said you were just staying in the guest room temporarily. That was 6 months ago. You're not welcome." That word hit me like a brick. Unwelcome. This was the house I built with my late husband John. The home where I raised Daniel. The dining room still had the marks on the wall where we used to measure his height every birthday. And now I was being told, screamed at, to leave. Like a stranger. Like I didn't belong. "Is Daniel home?" I asked softly. "He's not coming," Maya said, smiling coldly. "He agrees with me." She turned back inside and slammed the door in my face. I stood there in stunned silence, my fingers still gripping the edges of the pie plate. The birds kept chirping. The breeze kept blowing. But something inside me had just died. I placed the pie gently on the doorstep, and I walked down the steps with slow, deliberate care. By the time I reached the end of the driveway, I was no longer trembling. I was smiling, because Maya had just made the worst mistake of her life. Let me rewind. 6 months earlier, Daniel had called me in tears. His business was struggling. The house needed repairs. Maya had just had a baby. He asked if I could move in, help with bills, take care of the baby while they worked. I didn't hesitate. I left my condo. I cashed out a small investment to cover their debts. I cooked, cleaned, did laundry, paid the gas bill twice, and I never once asked for thanks. But Maya always treated me like a burden. I could feel her eyes rolling every time I offered advice, every time I changed the baby's diaper wrong, every time I left a plate in the sink. Daniel, bless him, was too stressed to notice, or too afraid to confront her. But I noticed everything, especially how they started whispering behind closed doors. I should have left then. But I didn't. I thought I was helping, until that Sunday. Until Maya screamed at me. The next morning I drove to my lawyer's office. "Call the realtor," I told her calmly. "List the house." She looked at me, stunned. "Your son doesn't know yet?" "No," I said, sipping my coffee. "But he will." You see, the house was still in my name. John and I had paid it off years ago. When Daniel got married, we allowed him and Maya to move in, rent-free. They never signed a lease, never paid the mortgage. Because there wasn't one. They thought it was theirs. It wasn't. And I was about to remind them. I didn't tell them. I didn't give them a warning. I just did it. I sold the house quietly to a couple relocating from New York. Cash buyers, no contingencies, closing in 1 week. I didn't even go back to pack. I sent a moving crew. Took what mattered. John's letters, my jewellery, family photos. I left the couch, the dining table, the big screen TV Daniel bought on credit. I smiled the whole time. A week later I got a call. "Mom!" Daniel's voice was frantic. "There are strangers in the house. They say they own it. What's going on?" I didn't answer right away. I was sitting by the fireplace in my new condo, The one with ocean views and quiet neighbours, the one I bought in full with the house money and still had cash left over. I let him sweat. "Mum," I finally spoke. "Oh, Daniel, you didn't check the deed, did you?" "What?" "It's okay. Maya said I wasn't welcome, so I left." Silence. Then, "Wait, you sold the house? You didn't even tell us?" "I did," I said calmly, "when she told me to go away. You can't do that. I already did." I ended the call. Then I blocked him. And for the first time in years, I slept like a baby. But that wasn't the end, because 3 days later, I got a knock at my door. It was Maya. She looked pale, panicked, desperate. "Margaret," she stammered. We need to talk, please." I opened the door slowly. She looked behind her, making sure no one was watching. Then she whispered, "Please, help us. We have nowhere to go." I raised an eyebrow. "Go away," I said quietly, "or I'll call the police." And I closed the door. I closed the door gently, not with a slam, not with anger. Just silence. The kind of silence Maya had never shown me. The kind she didn't understand. The kind that told you, "You're done." I could hear her muffled sob on the other side of the door, followed by hurried footsteps fading down the hallway. I didn't bother looking through the peephole. I just stood still in the quiet glow of my new condo's entryway, surrounded by warm beige walls, hardwood floors, and peace. I exhaled deeply and smiled again. Let's rewind once more, because you need to understand how deep this betrayal went. When I moved into that house 6 months ago, I truly believed I was doing the right thing, helping my son, supporting his wife, being a grandma. Maya had just given birth. Daniel was under financial pressure. I thought they needed me. But the truth, they needed a servant, not a mother. Maya would text me from upstairs to bring her tea. Daniel would pass off running errands, so I'd watch the baby for 12 hours straight. They stopped saying thank you after the first week. Then came the guilt tripping, the eye rolls, the whispered arguments behind the nursery door. They were planning something even then. I could feel it in the air. But what they didn't realize was, I was planning too. Back to now. 2 hours after Maya's knock, Daniel called me again. I didn't answer. He texted next. "I know you're mad, but this is still my home. Can we just talk?" My fingers hovered over the screen. I didn't respond. The next morning, a lawyer called, Maya's cousin. "Hi, Mrs. Campbell," she began. "This is Natasha. I represent Daniel and Maya. They're concerned about the legality of your home sale." I sipped my tea, staring out at the ocean waves below my balcony. Calm. Still. "Are they now?" I replied. "Yes. They claim they had an agreement." "Did they sign anything?" "No, but did they pay rent, mortgage, taxes, utilities?" "No, but they were under the impression." "Then they can stay under that impression. Goodbye." I hung up. I didn't flinch. They wanted to play smart. I'd already won the game. The next few days I expected peace. But I got something else. Headlines. One morning I opened my tablet to see local couple kicked out by own mother, claims house was sold without warning, complete with a picture of Maya crying on the sidewalk, holding the baby, Daniel behind her, looking helpless. I didn't know whether to laugh or shake my head. The comments were brutal. Why didn't they check the deed? Sounds like the mom owned the house. They sound ungrateful. Bet she saved them during hard times. Daniel had always been obsessed with his image. Maya loved attention even more. Now they had it, but not in the way they wanted. Then came the message that changed everything. A voicemail. Left at 2:14 a.m. I listened as Daniel's voice cracked. "Mom, I'm sorry. I should have stood up for you. I didn't know she'd say that to you. I was just trying to keep peace. Now we're living in her friend's basement. We have nothing. Silence. Then, I miss you. I stared at the phone for a long time. The little boy who used to hold my hand in parking lots had grown into a man who let his wife scream at me like trash. And now he missed me. Was it guilt? Or regret? Or just desperation? I didn't reply. 3 days later, another knock. This time it was Daniel. He looked thinner, dark circles under his eyes. No suit, just jeans and an old hoodie, like the boy I raised, not the man Maya tried to mold him into. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. I didn't speak. He cleared his throat. "I messed up, Mum." Still, I said nothing. I should have stopped her. I should have kicked her out that day, not you. I was scared and selfish and stupid. He took a deep breath. "I miss you. The baby misses you. We need you." That's when I saw it. Real tears. Not for the house, not for the things, but for me. And I felt something stir inside me. But I didn't open the door. Not yet. I handed him an envelope through the gap. Inside it was a photo. It was the picture of the front porch, the one where Maya screamed at me, with my pie still on the step. Daniel looked down at it, confused, then turned the photo over. On the back, I'd written just one word: remember. Then I shut the door. That night, my phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't Daniel. It was my realtor. "There's something you should know," she said. My stomach tightened. "What is it?" She hesitated. "Your buyers backed out." "What?" "They say someone contacted their office, sent them an anonymous email with photos, accused you of selling the house illegally, said the place had unresolved family drama and legal issues." My breath caught. "Who?" "We don't know, but they've pulled out. The deal is off. For now." I hung up in silence. Then I turned on the news. And there it was. A new headline. "House at centre of family drama may be back on market. New lawsuit could delay sale." They were trying to sabotage me. They were desperate, and I wasn't done yet. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was afraid, but because I was angry. You see, I'd spent my entire life solving problems, raising a son on one salary, taking care of a dying husband through years of pain, building a business from a side hustle into something real. I was never soft. But for the past few years, I let myself believe that staying quiet was strength, that letting things go was wisdom. Now I knew better, because silence, the kind I'd given Maya and Daniel, doesn't work on people who mistake kindness for weakness. They weren't just pushing boundaries anymore. They were declaring war, and they forgot who they were messing with. The next morning, I walked into my lawyer's office like a woman on a mission. "File a cease and desist," I said, slapping the printed news article on her desk, "and prep a defamation suit." She blinked at me. "Margaret? Do it." She didn't argue. I had enough documentation to prove ownership of the house, financial records showing I paid for everything, and texts from Daniel literally thanking me for covering their bills. Maya's lies wouldn't stand up in court, but that wasn't enough for me. I wanted them to feel the weight of what they tried to take from me. So I pulled out the next card in my hand. Back when John was alive, we'd bought a second property out of town, a quiet, modest duplex that we used to rent out. I still owned it. I hadn't thought about it in years. Until now. I called a friend who managed rentals. "I want you to list it," I said. "But not for just anyone." She raised a brow. "Got someone in mind?" "Yes," I said with a smile. "Me." That same afternoon, I drove to the old duplex with a notepad and a Sharpie, and on the door of the vacant side I taped a large white sign that read, "Welcome home to whoever knows the value of a home." And on the door of the other unit? I slid a letter through the mail slot, a letter addressed to Maya and Daniel. "Dear Daniel and Maya," it read, "I hear you've been looking for a place. Congratulations, you're in luck. The unit across from mine just opened up. Rent is fair. Rules are strict. No screaming, no fake lawsuits, No disrespecting the woman who used to cook your meals and rock your child to sleep. If you can handle that, you know where to find me. Love, the woman who taught you how to use a spoon. They didn't move in, of course, not right away. They still had too much pride. But a week later, Daniel showed up again, this time with the baby in his arms. No Maya. He looked tired, unshaven. His shoes were dirty. The baby had a little scrape on her chin. I didn't come for help, he said. I didn't say anything. I didn't know who else to talk to. The baby reached for me. Out of instinct, my arms moved before my heart caught up, and the moment she landed against my chest, I felt it. Home. Real home. Not the building. The bond. Daniel sat on the porch while I rocked the baby in the garden swing. He told me everything. Maya's meltdown, her attempt to file charges against me for elder abuse, which went nowhere, her paranoia, how she tried to get her influencer friends to smear me online, how none of it worked. Now she was gone, staying with her sister, and Daniel was lost. I don't want your money, he said quietly, or the house. I just want peace again. I looked at him. You could have had that, I said, 6 months ago. He nodded. I know. The silence sat between us like fog. Then he looked up. I saw your note, he said. About the duplex. I waited. Do you think, would it be okay if... Before he could finish, my phone buzzed. It was my realtor again. Margaret, she said. We've got a new buyer. Full price. Cash. I smiled. Good. Tell them it's a deal. Then I turned back to Daniel. I don't know if you deserve the place across from me yet, I said calmly. His face dropped. But you can earn it. His eyes lit up, then dimmed again. I just don't know how to fix it all, he whispered. You don't need to fix everything, I said. Just start by fixing yourself. That night, I walked past the porch of the duplex and saw something new. A small blanket, laid gently across the swing, a thank you note, and a pie. Apple cinnamon. My recipe. No note, no name. But I knew, and I smiled. Just as I reached the door of my condo, a shadow moved behind me. I turned. Maya, still dressed in designer clothes but with a bitterness that made her look 10 years older. I hope you're proud of yourself, she said coldly. I am, I said. She stepped closer. You think you won? You think this little pity parade makes you better than me? I didn't respond. I'll ruin you, she hissed, one way or another. I met her gaze, unshaken. You already tried. Then I stepped inside and locked the door. But I should have known. That wouldn't be the last time she came for me. Because 3 days later, I woke up to flashing lights outside my window. The blue and red lights danced across my bedroom ceiling. I sat up in bed, heart suddenly pounding. Not because I was guilty of anything, but because when the police show up at your home, it doesn't matter if you're innocent. All that matters is what they think. I pulled back the curtain just slightly. 2 patrol cars, 1 unmarked vehicle, a 3rd car with tinted windows that hadn't turned off its engine. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I slipped on a sweater, tied my robe, and made my way to the front door. By the time I opened it, 2 officers were already stepping onto my porch. Mrs. Campbell? The older one asked. Yes, I replied calmly. He held up a badge. I'm Detective Ramos. This is Officer Lewinsky. We're following up on an anonymous report filed last night. Report? Yes, ma'am, he said. A claim of property fraud, elder coercion, and financial misconduct. I blinked once, then smiled. Maya, I whispered. Ma'am? Nothing. Come in. They looked around my condo with the suspicion of men trained to see guilt where others see decor. I let them sit in my living room, offered them tea and listened patiently as they read out the claims. Maya had sent them documents, doctored texts, photos of me near the safe in the old house, bank withdrawals that she made, now under my name. She even included a forged letter from me stating I pressured Daniel into signing over power of attorney. None of it was real, but it was loud, and that was Maya's power. She didn't need the truth, she just needed noise. "Mrs. Campbell," Detective Ramos said cautiously, "I don't want to alarm you. These are just preliminary inquiries. We're not accusing you of anything." I nodded. "You're just doing your job." "Yes, ma'am. But if any of this escalates to civil court, you might want to retain defense counsel." I took a deep breath. "Would you like to see the deed?" I asked. His eyebrows rose. "Excuse me?" "To the house," I said. "The one I sold. I have the certified copy, notarized and stamped. Also, a full record of utility bills paid by me. A record of the bank transfer to my personal account, and the moving company's receipt under my name." I stood, walked calmly to the office drawer, and handed him a thick envelope. He flipped through the papers slowly, eyes widening. Officer Lewinsky leaned in. After a moment, Ramos closed the file. He looked up at me with a very different expression now. Relief, respect, maybe even a little shame. "I don't think we'll be bothering you again, Mrs. Campbell." I smiled. "You will if you want more pie." They chuckled, politely. Then they left. But the tinted window car? It didn't drive off, not right away. It waited, and then, from the passenger seat, stepped out Maya, not crying, not yelling, just watching me. I walked down the steps barefoot and met her by the sidewalk. "What do you want now?" I asked quietly. She folded her arms. "This isn't over." "It is," she scoffed. "You embarrassed us, made us look like fools. Everyone's laughing at us." "No, Maya," I said. "You did that all by yourself." She stepped closer. "You think this little Justice Act makes you better than me? You're just a bitter, lonely woman with too much time on her hands." I took a long breath. "Maybe," I said, "but I'm not the one faking evidence to take down a 65-year-old woman." That cracked her mask. She looked away, and for a second, just a split second, I saw it. Fear, not of me, but of being found out. I stepped closer. "You came for war, Maya, but I've lived through worse things than you. You're just noise." I turned around, walked back inside, and didn't look back. Later that night, Daniel called. He sounded shaken. "Mum, did the police come to your place?" "Yes." "I didn't know she did that, I swear. She said she was handling legal stuff. I didn't know she forged anything." I didn't say anything. He kept going. I kicked her out." That made me pause. "She's gone?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. "Took the baby, went to her mother's house. I'm alone now." He sounded hollow, empty, wrecked. "What do you want from me, Daniel?" I asked gently. There was silence. Then, "Help." One word. Not screamed, not demanded, just broken. I didn't give him an answer. Instead, I ended the call and walked out onto my balcony. The ocean was calm, the air smelled of sea salt and jasmine, but something heavy was building in my chest. Grief, guilt, no, resolve. Because this wasn't just about Maya anymore, it was about Daniel finally learning what it means to stand. And if he didn't, he'd lose everything. Again. 2 days later, I received an invitation in the mail. A mediation hearing, not court, not police, but something worse. Family court. Maya was suing for shared ownership of the house money, claiming she contributed to the emotional upkeep of the home and was verbally promised a share of the proceeds. It was absurd. But family court doesn't care about absurdity. It cares about stories. And Maya, she was a storyteller. So I made a decision. If she wanted war, I'd give her one last battle, and I wasn't going to fight fair. I didn't wear black to the mediation hearing. I wore blue, soft navy, the colour of calm, wisdom and control. Let Maya wear rage. Let her come draped in fire. I was going to walk in like the ocean, quiet, deep, and impossible to drown. The courthouse conference room wasn't what I expected. No judge's bench, just a polished oval table, a box of tissues in the centre, and a sign that read, "Family first, resolve before court." As if that ever worked. Maya was already seated on the far side. Red dress, sharp heels, baby on her hip. Theatrics, of course. She wanted sympathy. Daniel sat beside her, shoulders hunched, eyes on the floor. He looked like a boy being dragged to detention. I entered with my lawyer, Miranda, calm and ruthless. The mediator greeted us and laid out the rules. This is an informal resolution meeting. Both parties may present their sides. Our goal is to avoid court. Maya immediately jumped in. I was promised a share of the house. Margaret lived with us for free. She used my family's labour. I cooked, I cleaned, You screamed at her, Miranda interrupted. The mediator raised her hand. Let's not interrupt, Maya pressed on. She promised us that home. Verbally, we built memories there. Emotional equity counts. Miranda opened a folder and slid forward a thick packet. Signed deed, mortgage payments, utility receipts, surveillance footage showing her being thrown out while holding a pie. The mediator blinked. Yes, Miranda said. A pie. Maya's face went red. I was under stress, she shouted. I had just given birth. And yet, I said calmly, you had enough energy to scream at a woman carrying dessert. The room fell silent. Then Daniel cleared his throat. All heads turned. He stood slowly. I'd like to speak, he said. Maya tugged at his sleeve. Sit down. He didn't. He looked at me, then back at the mediator. She's telling the truth, he said. My mom owned the house. She paid for everything. Maya and I lived there rent-free for years. Daniel, Maya whispered, eyes wide. I ignored my mother, he continued. I let my wife treat her like a stranger. When she was... the only reason we didn't drown. He turned fully toward me. I'm sorry, Mom. Real. Not performative. Not manipulative. Just raw. Maya stood up, shaking. Are you serious? After everything... Sit down, he said, and this time his voice wasn't soft. It was firm, spine, for the first time in years. Maya dropped into the chair, stunned. I don't want anything from her, Daniel said, and Maya doesn't deserve a cent. The mediator took a slow breath. Well, she said, I think that settles the matter. We walked out of that room like three strangers. Maya didn't say a word. She took her things, her pride, what little was left, and left the building without looking back. Daniel lingered in the hallway. I don't expect you to forgive me, he said softly. I turned to him. You shouldn't, I said. Because forgiveness isn't about what you expect. It's about what you earn. He nodded. I'd like to earn it. I gave him a small smile. You can start by coming to dinner. Bring your daughter. She still loves apple pie. 3 weeks later he did. Just the two of them. No red dresses, no lawyers. Just a man and his child, showing up at the door of a mother who'd once been cast aside, and who still kept the light on just in case. We ate quietly, talked a little, laughed once. He washed the dishes. And before he left, he asked if he could come again. I told him yes. But inside, I told myself something more. Never again will I shrink to fit into someone else's comfort. They tried to erase me, but I rewrote the story, in ink, in steel, in silence that roared louder than any scream. And I never looked back.